Starting a business in Nigeria is super Herculean. But what runs through the minds of a business owner knowing that instead of one less problem, there's one more burden on the business owner, and this is electricity? On Rubbin Minds, we speak with business owners Jessica Henshaw and Elizabeth Mabong.
Welcome back. We're still talking electricity and, of course, power and the effect it has on small and medium enterprises. And I'm here now with two business owners who know a lot about this. Jessica Henshaw, how are you doing today?
Hi,
Elizabeth Mabong. Thanks for being here today. Let me start with you now. COVID has been a big conversation, of course, in 2020. A lot of people say that has definitely affected businesses. How much of that compared to what power does would you say has been a bigger problem?
How do I put this? So for a business like mine, so we are a 24 hours food service. And for me, COVID helped my business. I don't know if I would say COVID helped my business, but my business...
People selling food made money, so yes, it definitely helped your business.
My business thrived a lot this period. But the issue of power has...
There's no winning with that one.
There's no winning with it. I mean, from when we started, I would say power was one of our major problems from the inception of our business. And it's so funny, as a business owner, you're thinking of starting a business or growing your business. It's so funny how you have to think about generator cost. You have to factor that in because you cannot rely to any extent on NEPA lights. You just can't. PHC and whatever they are called these days. But I mean, you just can't. So when you're factoring in generator costs, you're also factoring in running it, maintaining it, servicing it. And sometimes this really adds a lot of pressure. Even where do you start? How do you manage it? Things like that. So for me, COVID was nothing compared to what I'm still facing even as at today when it comes to the power problem.
So people will say there are certain businesses that might not necessarily have issues like that with power. People are thinking you're just cooking, you're not just buying foodstuffs and putting on the pots and taking them out.
Wow, so for us, we have shawarma griddles, we have fryers, you need lights to be on. I mean, we run all day. We need at night, preservation. So we have deep freezers, we have fridges, we have vegetables, we have fresh things that need to be kept fresh. And when there's no light or your gen is not working, you have losses, things spoil, things are not fresh. This thing goes so much deeper than people actually assume that food businesses go through, especially like ours, and you need light to operate.
So you definitely need power because you run a printing service. I mean, you're not going to print it with your hand.
Heavily dependent on power.
Very heavily dependent on power.
Even from the order taking process as well, because we take orders across 5 different channels, or 5 different channels, 18 hours. And then the guys in the production work at least 12 to 16 hours a day. Yes. So we need power, basically, and for me that has been my biggest, largest.
The guest we had earlier said something around 40% of sort of revenue.
I heard that.
Or your overhead is sort of channeled.
Mine is 35% of my overheads monthly.
So how does the business survive on that?
Well, so now it's basically, it's almost like that's your constant overhead. I have 4 power sources, 4. 1 diesel generator, 1 petrol generator, and then I must be located in a mall that has a generator, just so that just as backup,
as a buffer,
basically, And then of course the PHC and lights, which is
the real backup of all of you,
which never ever comes, and is the cause of all of these backups, And for us, because the work needs to go on and you don't need hitches, that needs to be in place. So I don't even bother to focus on, so why? It's just to get the solutions.
I mean, something you mentioned there that's very interesting is at the end of the day, you still get the bills. So how does this work? When the bills come and you're wondering, I had power for probably 3 hours a day throughout all of this, how do you address that sort of a situation with the PHC and officials?
Major experience I had when we moved to our second location, and at that time, they told us we'll get our meter in. It was a brand new space, so they told us we'll get our meter in, say, 1 month. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. It took about 8 months for us to get our meter. Now, before the meter came, they were doing the what's the bill they bring monthly? Estimated bill. So now, at that time, we didn't even have half as much equipment as we do now. So they'll bring bills, and there was a day I was literally ready to fight with the NEPA officials. I'm like, I'm not paying this. You need to explain to me how this bill was generated. They would bring exaggerated bills. Okay, I don't want to pay this bill. Give me my meter. I've paid for a meter. Give me my meter. And this took such a long time. So that back and forth cost us so much, and we were paying, and at the time not making as much as we're making now, but we were spending almost the same amount of money we are spending now on NEPA bills. Also, for us now, we seal all our bags before they leave. So it's a thing where we need light 24/7. There's nothing we cannot operate.
Through the entire chain.
We can't operate. We can't do anything without electricity. So we're almost used to not having lights. You know, I think people feel like you living in a certain area in Lagos or Nigeria, whatever, you might have light. Yes, maybe we have light more than some people, but then again, I'm just not dependent on light. I make sure we buy diesel every day, and we have petrol, and like she said, you have a backup gen, you have another gen, and it's a lot.
So I mean, I hear all this and I wonder, is it so your business is doing quite well? I mean, you have 4 sources of power. Not someone who's starting off today, who wants to start a business in Nigeria today. Not everybody has that sort of level of success or luxury, to start off that way. So what does a young business owner do if you can't afford a diesel generator and then a petrol generator and then PHCN and sometimes an inverter even? How do I even start? What did you do?
Because it took me a while to get to this point. It also took me a while to decide that, I need 4, if that makes any sense. So it's, I've literally gotten off from my office in the middle of the day to go buy a generator.
Yourself.
So there's just no going on. You have to face it. And maybe probably just start up as lean as possible. Like for me, like I said, it's not negotiable, like being in the mall, because at least it helps. But if you can't afford it, I honestly don't know.
Nigeria is known for having so many unions and all of these things where, there's just a plethora of unions. Most times they're not necessarily effective. But so there's been talks about maybe small businesses need to sort of band together and find a way of presenting their case properly, if it's to government, if it's to the power distribution companies, to sort of say, okay, this is what we're going through. What can be done for us? Do you think that's a viable way to look at this?
So I also think we are more focused on survival than to bother ourselves with what do we do, you know? And then honestly, the pressures and all of that probably would not even let people sit. People who are probably more worried about that would be maybe bigger companies who spend much more. But the smaller SMEs, I don't want to say I doubt that they'll come together to be able to do that. But I think we're better off just facing our problems and surviving than going after the government.
What do you think?
For me, I think that the fact that the power sector is now privatized, if that happens where SMEs decide to go to them, they're seeing us as customers. They're not seeing us as Nigerians. Okay, how do we help? They're seeing us as, okay, how this is a form in which we can make more money. So they're seeing us as customers, and I think that's an issue. When this whole privatization thing came, I feel like a lot of people thought it was a better option. For me, I don't believe it was a better option, in the sense that Nigerians are not the most patriotic people. A lot of us are in business primarily to amass as much profit as we can, not to serve, not to provide service, not even what our consumers think of the service we're providing. They just want to make as much profit as possible. So when you hand something that is literally primary for humans' existence, like lights, and give it to a private sector and say, run this, you're giving them a means to generate income for themselves. So, and there's the bodies that are supposed to monitor and regulate these things are also very corrupt. So it's just a thing where they're going to see us as customers, and they're not going to really do anything to help our situation. We're just going to go from fire to fire, go through these different routes to get to the same problem. That's what I think.
Through these COVID times, we saw on TV around the world where governments in several countries were supporting businesses or handing out sort of palliatives, to support especially small businesses. I mean, we heard things in Nigeria. Most people didn't see them, but we heard things. I don't know if you guys got.
I heard.
Okay. So besides COVID, do you feel sort of abandoned by government when you talk about, especially with power? Because it's the one thing I know most businesses just ask government for. Give us this and let us be. We can run this thing on our own. Just give us power. Do you get a sense that you feel like a government on your own?
Yes, because I think at some point it's almost normal for there not to be liked.
Yeah.
So normal. Like, we don't even bother. We just need to get on to the next day. So being disappointed doesn't even help you in any form. So yes, we are, but I doubt that we dwell on that. Yeah. I don't. It's what next.
But then how do we then cross this bridge to get things done and hold people accountable, you think?
So I think this problem is a general problem. I don't think that you can fix the power issue without fixing other things. With everything in Nigeria, corruption or whatever, corruption is a major key. Now, when a lot of people are clamoring for let the youth come and lead, I think that for you to be able to be in power, you have to understand the game of politics. That's why we get so many young people go into power and they're confused. Okay, or you're saying, why is he not doing this? Why is she not doing that? They're not doing anything because they can't. You have to understand how the game is played if you're going to beat them at their own game. You have to also immerse yourself in the game and find a way around it. So I think that if we're going to say, okay, let's have a youth leader, I don't think young people can do it because they don't understand. There's years and years of history in the political game. The people who are there now know what is missing. They've heard us. They know our complaints. They know what they can do to make it better. I don't think it's that they don't know. I don't think it's that they can't hear us. I think it's they're not ready. There's so much politics that goes on with how things are distributed, how things are done, how things are operated. And for that to change, I really do believe that there has to be someone who can keep a balance.
I want personal stories of maybe moments or times when power has almost brought your business sort of to a close, if at all. If you can remember any situation where you had so much drama with, I don't know, anything around that you just said, I'm done with this. Did it ever happen? Did it ever happen? I'm sure there's multiple small instances or frustrations where you're just like, wow, again.
So honestly, when my business first started, it was on really shaky grounds. We almost shut down. I was done. And I was done because the first building we got to run from, the landlord had taken money from us, promised us 24 hours lights. We get there, we find out that she has just one generator, and we had blackouts. That building was so bad, there was no light for straight on 1 week. I'm telling you, 6 days, 7 days, no light. Wow. So even if they were running the generator, they would have to shut it down for some time for it to rest, for us to pick up. Now, mind you, I run a 24 hours business, just building my structure, just finding out what works, what to do, what to not do. So I'm going through that, and then this problem just comes in, and it's everything at the same time. So I'm fighting building management, give me light, put on the gen, we need this, we have to do this. So there will be times customers will call in, and we can't even put anything on the fire. We can't do anything. It was a complete halt for me, and that put so much pressure on my business. I lost customers. Obviously nobody wants to call in, and they're always hearing one story or the other, and you have it affected my morale and how I just wanted to let it go. And so for a while that was a huge issue. So for me to leave that building and go to another building, of course there are places where the light situation is better and they're a bit better managed. Okay. So that was what.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, how did you get out of that? So I guess
I had to move into a space where now we are in control of our own light situation. Yeah. Whether NEPA brings light or not, we know that. Prepare your diesel down, prepare your petrol down, and prepare yourself. So
Okay, so just down the road. our first retail store in Lekki 1. And so we do a lot of fast delivery. So you can order today, you can get it today.
Oh,
but this particular order, I think it was about 200 pieces that was supposed to build to go out that day. They hadn't been light the whole month. So week to week, you know, we kept patching on. So this particular week, the 2 generators refused to come on. 2 of them. And then we had this delivery at 6 p.m. that day. And this was like 1 p.m. We did everything. We did everything up until calling, okay, can we hire a gen to use? Then at some point, there was something wrong with the PHCN connection. We did everything. So now the only option we had at the time was to buy a new generator on the spot. How do you buy a new generator? Like, the value of the job was like maybe 1/4 of the
price of a new generator.
I struggled. Like,
so you're caught between keeping your credibility and your name.
Can I just refund this money?
And just
you
exactly.
know, and buy. I had to buy the gen. I literally, you know, with a gen, you take time, you decide what kind of gen. Like, how do you just wake up
and buy a generator?
And buy a gen. I had to buy a gen. I had to.
Wow.
With tears.
I hope the gen is still working.
With tears, like I had to buy it, you know.
Heavy. I'm sorry, but so, I mean, you tell all these stories, you've been through these pains, and like you have said, at a point you're just sort of, it becomes your normal, so you even don't complain anymore. Yes. Looking forward, the value of the Naira isn't looking great. Wow. The taxation issues are becoming crazy. There's a new person knocking at your door every other day with this new bill in your face for you to pay. So there's all of these things happening, and in all of that, of course, there's still no power. Yeah. How do you stay optimistic running a business in an environment like this?
So I've had to modify some of our processes. So when we have, so instead of taking orders that you need to do, you know, immediately or same day, we try to extend them a bit, just so that
you have room in case,
you know. But then of course those orders will still come. But even at that, you're still at, okay, be ready to explain to the customer that something may happen. That's the point we're at, because before we're not ready, now we are. Now hindsight would have been, okay, what if this happens? So we're always, you know, it's not a good place to be, but it's almost like telling the customer, you know what, I really can't do it. But then you have to find a balance, and that's basically, so modifying yourself to be able to survive within the system. That's what it is for me.
I think we were raised to suffer. Like, I think from growing up in Nigeria, you're raised to be able to deal with hardship. Honestly, there are things that happen to us now, even in our everyday lives, that are not normal, but we're accustomed to it. For me, I had to survive, I had to eat. This is like, I want to build a life. So whatever it is, this is the environment I'm in, and I'm not doing anything with the hope that something will change. That's the honest truth. And I feel like a lot of us are just trying to figure out things as we go, without the ideology that something might change, because we've waited years and nothing has changed. So what makes you think a new government or a new whatever is going to change anything? So for me, my only hopes are to be able to get through the hurdles, but I have no expectations whatsoever of anything changing.
What about for your business?
How do you mean? Oh, for
optimistic about your business?
Oh no, I mean, with the business I'm in, honestly, with the way we were able to thrive this COVID period, it really, really boosted my morale. I didn't believe that we would get through this COVID phase. So us being able to get through this COVID phase with the light issues, the police issue, the harassment issue, the everything, I mean, that sort of put me on a good path or vibe.
Still optimistic for your business?
Definitely. Just gonna find, just find a more convenient way to, to keep surviving through.
Modifying things
as you go along. Definitely inspired. Thank you very much, Jessica. Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
And good luck with everything as you deal with with all the discos in Nigeria. We'll take another break now and we'll be right back. Please don't go away.